Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Z's English. And of course, I promised to examine the various aspects of paper 2, usually for the CSEC examination. However, if you really want to know how to tackle the summary component of any English A exam, feel free to listen and get some ideas as we go along. In this video, we will examine the various ways that you can actually respond to a summary passage. A rule of thumb when you are examining a passage in an attempt to write a summary is that your summary should be 1/3 of whatever is written. So if you have a passage of about 300 words, your summary should be about 100 words in length, because we're looking for 1/3 of the piece. Similarly, if you have a passage of 60 words, your summary should be about 20 words in length. Of course, there are some students who would use fewer words, and that's okay, as long as it captures the gist of the original passage. So what are the steps involved in writing the summary? I usually tell students that you read the passage twice. So here we have some guidelines. CSEC gives the instructions. In this paper, you realize it has told you, write your answer on the ruled pages. There may be more spaces than you need and so forth. Looking at the main things, read the following article on celebrity relationships carefully and list 5 main points discussed. Then write a summary of the article in not more than 120 words. So that is what I was looking for. That summary and any other summary that CSEC, we say CSEC, would be presenting, the students would have to write 120 words. So my first point is that you read the passage twice. The first reading is for a general understanding. So if you place that paper down, you can say, yes, this passage was about perhaps overpopulation in urban cities. If that passage perhaps was about music, the benefits of music, after you have done your first reading, you should be able to give just an idea as to what that passage is all about. So that is what the first reading is all about. The second reading would mean obtaining a deeper understanding. At this point, you may even decide to highlight or circle the salient points, the main ideas outlined in the passage. And sometimes the students ask, how do you know that you actually have a main point? Or how do you know it's the main point? I usually tell the students that in order to determine whether you have a main point or main idea, there are usually details in that passage to support that main idea. So if there are little details pointing to what you have underlined, then you know it's the main idea. So let's take, for example, you have a passage about large numbers of people continuing to move from rural to urban areas. Perhaps that passage would give you other details. They may give you that 500 people move into the city by airplane, 200 move in by train. They may give other information. All of this information would point to the fact that large numbers of persons continue to move from rural to urban areas. So as I said, you outline or you circle, some persons outline, some persons circle the main points that you have. Now, I usually tell students, as you can see in this passage, there are various paragraphs. In paragraph 1, there may be 2 main points outlined. If I go to the second paragraph, it may have 4 points, there may be 1 point, so there is no set number of main points you can get in a paragraph. The important thing is to identify it and to outline it. What do we do next? Now that you have highlighted your main points, you will be required to state 5 points discussed in the passage. So obviously, if you have highlighted your main points, and today we're not looking at this specific summary, I'm just giving you a general overview, and in later videos we are going to examine specific summary pieces. So after you have highlighted your main points, you will be asked to state 5 points discussed in the passage, as you can see here. So yes, they will ask you to list 5 main points. At times in a specific paragraph, some main ideas would be stated in the paragraph. And so, students can use this main idea and rephrase it in order to produce a main point. In other cases, the main idea is implied. So, based on the details given, you would be able to come up with your own main idea. Now, as much as possible, we encourage students to use their own words when they are going to write their 5 main points. Of course, there are cases where the word is a bit difficult to change or to replace, so to speak. For example, if you have a word like swimming, there are very few words that can be used in place of swimming. So if someone is going to write a main idea based on swimming, he or she may have to use the word swimming. So the key thing is to identify 5 main ideas. It may be from any paragraph, and after you have identified it, you are going to rephrase it and come up with your 5 main points. What do we do next after we have our 5 main points? One question that is usually asked before we move on to our next point is that, can we write our main points in any way? I always tell students your main points must be written in the form of a sentence. So, if your passage is about swimming, as I mentioned, a main idea may not be about swimming. A student cannot write on line 1 about swimming. That's not a main point. Or a student should not write the importance of swimming. I've seen cases where students write about swimming, and that of course would be incorrect. I have seen cases where students write for number 2, the importance of swimming. I would put an X next to it because these ideas are very vague. A better main point would be, swimming is important because it helps individuals to lose weight. If that is the main idea that you got. So you need to say exactly what swimming does if it is mentioned in the passage. Swimming is important because it helps individuals to lose weight. So number 3 clearly is a better main point. Number 1, again, it's a fragment about swimming. It doesn't say much. Number 2, the importance of swimming, insufficient. However, a better one would be swimming is important because it helps individuals to lose weight. So your main points must be written in complete sentences. After you have written your 5 main points, you are required to use these points to write up your summary. I must tell you very early that the 5 main points should never be used to write your summary, forgetting all other details. In other words, students should use these 5 main points and add other relevant details that have been mentioned in the passage. So, in addition to your 5 main points, you need to go through the passage and identify other main points that have been mentioned, and you need to use them to create your summary. So there you have it. When writing your summary, you read your passage twice. Secondly, you identify the very main points in the various paragraphs that you have. You may highlight, you may circle, you can jot them down in the spaces that have been provided. After this, you state 5 main points discussed in the passage. Obviously, you need to use as much as possible your own words. These 5 main points, finally, must be used to write your summary. And as I stated, you need to include as well other relevant details mentioned in the passage. So that's it for the summary. And of course, in our next video, we're going to be looking at some other aspects of English language.